What's up guys, I'm Dan, and today we're going to be building a PC. We're going to be using the Ryzen 7 2700X processor, the Asus Prime X470 Pro motherboard, the case is a Corsair 570x, it's tempered glass on 4 sides, which should make cable management a little interesting, but I'm looking forward to it. Comes with 3 case fans included. They're SP120 RGB fans. I got an additional 3, 2 up top, 1 in the back. I am going to be running a stock cooler for right now. I'm going to upgrade it to a water cooler down the line. I'm using an EVGA 750 GQ power supply. It's 80 plus gold, semi-modular. I believe the motherboard 24 pin is the only cable. The graphics cards, I'm going to end up using 2 RX 570s in Crossfire. I don't actually need to use 2 570s, I could just use 1 because I'm actually only using a 1080p monitor, and it's only 60 hertz, so I'm going to be maxing it out either way. I am going to upgrade to a 4K monitor not too far from now, so I will end up getting a 4K monitor, and then this will get upgraded when I get that to a GTX 1080 Ti, which I think will be pretty good. I decided to go with the Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM. It's DDR4 3200 megahertz. I'm not 100% that I can get 3200 megahertz out of it because it's not in my motherboard's QVL, but I'm going to see about that, and I got a really good price on it, so even if it's 29 something, I'm fine with that. I got a 120 gigabyte SSD that I'm taking from another build, a 1 terabyte hard drive that I'm taking from another build, and by the way, both of these graphics cards, I forgot to mention, did come from other builds. I took one from the computer this is replacing, and one from another build of mine, so that's why I'm using these, otherwise I would have bought 1 card. I decided to get to use 2 because I already had 2, and I just thought it'd be more interesting to run some benchmarks and see what it was capable of in terms of like times by extreme and stuff like that, because I just wasn't really sure what 2 cards in Crossfire gets you. I've seen some stuff on it, but I haven't really paid enough attention, and I always try to do these things myself to see rather than go off somebody else's results. So that's what the build is going to be consisting of. I do have some white braided cables I'm going to put in. I also got I got a fan hub in addition to this, because this comes with a controller, but it's only an RGB controller. It does not power the fans, so with 6 fans I needed a fan hub, so I have that I'm going to put in also. I think that's about it. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here, well, the first thing I did was take the motherboard out of the box and out of the plastic and anti-static bag, which I forgot to mention, I do not wear an anti-static wristband. I never have, and I've never had any issues. I just am not really sure it is necessary, so I don't wear one. Just make sure you ground yourself here and there, and you generally should be fine. So you take the processor, try not to touch it on anything, or touch any of the pins. They can be pretty fragile. So you see the arrow, or well, excuse me, triangle up here. You basically just put this on here, line it up with the triangle that's on here. It'll go right in. Then you just push this down. You shouldn't really feel a ton of resistance with the AMD chips. Intel, I think they have some more resistance with that. Then on to RAM. So consult your motherboard. My particular RAM is supposed to go in these gray slots, not the black slots, when you only have 2. So put that in. You want to go until you hear that click. That's how you know it's in all the way. If you don't hear that click, it is not in all the way, and it might not read it. Alright, so those are both in. I'm going to grab our stock cooler. We are going to upgrade this, so I'm not too concerned about the stock cooler at the moment. But actually, Let's see. There it goes. Basically just line up these latches. There we go. And then pull it back. Well, I'm not so sure. Alright, I'm gonna pull it back to tighten it. There it goes. Okay, so it gives you an amount of resistance that I didn't think it would, but that is mounted. I think that's actually gonna be fine for now. Alright, so the IO shield, I threw that in just now. Basically, you just push it from the inside of the case. You could do it two different ways. You could either read or see some of the layout and discover which way you're supposed to put it in, or you could line up the motherboard if you don't want to do that. Installing the power supply is one of the easiest parts. Generally, it just takes 4 screws. Put the power supply where it goes, which is at the bottom back case. You just line it up so that the screw holes are visible. You just screw them in. Some cases do have brackets now that they use, and you'll actually attach it to a bracket outside of the case and then slide the whole thing in. That's less common, but you still see it plenty of the time. So now you just drop the motherboard in. You just put it on the standoffs. For an ATX, as an ATX motherboard, you would drop it onto the 8 holes, 8 standoffs. My standoffs were already installed. That will depend on your particular case. Generally the standoffs come with the case. Most nicer cases, they'll already be installed. You just have to see where you're supposed to put them, because sometimes they'll be set up for, micro ATX or, just any other form factor. This case, they were already set up for ATX, so I didn't have to worry about it. So now we're just going to screw them in. My screwdriver is a little short. If it was a little longer, it'd be much easier. Don't slip off a screw and hit the motherboard. Probably bad, if I had to guess. And I don't really have to guess, but I'm gonna. Okay, so now I'm going to install the graphics cards. I'm going to use these 2 slots. These do open and close, so make sure yours are open. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far. I do have to... Yeah, they're tighter than I thought. They look like you could do them with your thumb, kind of like thumb screws, but apparently not so much, so I'm just going to unscrew those to clear up the slots. Okay, there's one. And hitting things. I think it's going to be these 2 slots, I believe. Hopefully. Although worst case scenario, I just have to put one back in. Okay. Take that out. Try the first one out. Nice and easy. Don't need to force anything. There we go. You'll hear it click. That's how you know it's in. We'll put these 2 screws back in to hold it in place. I want to make sure it's relatively tight. It's not grabbing properly. I want to make sure it's relatively tight so it doesn't droop down or have any sag. Okay, there we go. That's on track. That was over too far. Good thing I didn't push very hard. Good eyesight goes a long way as well. Just in general. Although it doesn't hurt for PC building. Okay. Starting to come together now. Be able to see pretty much how it's gonna wind up looking, because most of the components are inside. A lot of it left now is just attaching power and cable management and stuff like that, which we'll get into in a moment. So now I'm just going to be putting attaching the braided cables. I'm not actually going to attach them in the back, but I am going to run them. I haven't put my other graphics card back in yet. I put it on the first time and realized I hadn't put the case connections on yet, which is obviously very important because the graphics card sits a little low. You can't actually get your hands under there. So I will attach that one after I get the graphics card put back in, which I think I'll do now, and then I'll start worrying about some cable management. See what we can do here. Hopefully we can clean it up quite a bit. I think we can. We're going to do a test post here just to make sure everything's functioning properly. Obviously the cables won't stay that way. I have the fan hub and everything connected. Everything appears to be working normally. I'm just waiting to see it post, which it did. Perfect. Hey guys, so it's been several days since I finished building. I just wanted to go over briefly what the system is going to be used for, what I plan to upgrade, and any difficulties I had with the case. So what I plan to use this for is video editing, as well as gaming and some other productivity related tasks. It should do the job perfectly fine for now. Eventually I will upgrade the RAM to a 32 gigabyte set, but I don't think that's necessary for a while. Because it will work, it just, will limit me maybe in certain scenarios. As far as other things to upgrade, the CPU cooler will be upgraded. I'm not in a rush to do that, but it will be upgraded. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to go with, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with an AIO. I kind of want to go with a 360 radiator in the front, but I haven't made up my mind on that yet. I'm also going to upgrade the graphics cards. I'm going to take those out and throw, well, it depends on price, but I assume I'm going to put a GTX 1080 Ti in there. That seems to be the front runner right now, but I'll see how prices go. I think that's all I want to upgrade in the immediate future. Well, not immediate future, but in the future. As far as difficulties with this case, if you've ever seen a review for this case or ever worked in this case, you probably had the same issues. Pretty much my only issue is cable management, because I have a lot of cables, especially with the extra fan controller in the back. So I just had a lot of things running around. So there's a metal piece that covers the main cables going down the center of the back, and I had difficulty with that because of my cable extensions. Particularly the motherboard cable extension, it is too wide for it, so I had to squeeze it just barely underneath that. So it's right at the bottom of that piece, but I was able to make it work, fortunately. And as you saw, the cable management, I think, turned out pretty nicely. Outside of that, I didn't really have any issues. I think everything came out looking pretty good. I'm comfortable with the airflow of this case. With the 6 fans, it's pretty powerful. I try to keep them on relatively high speeds because I like to keep things cool. But I do share this office with my wife, so I can't keep them high at all times. I think that's about it as far as the build. You're probably looking for some benchmarks. I'm not going to have any benchmarks in this video. I will have some in future videos. I'll be doing some Crossfire versus single GPU videos, as well as some like Cinebench and 3D Mark kind of stuff, as well as like gaming. But Cinebench, I've already done some brief light tests. My RAM's currently at 3200 megahertz. I can get it clocked up to 3600 megahertz. So I ran Cinebench at 3600 megahertz of the RAM and 4.2 gigahertz on the processor, which is absolutely the highest I would consider putting my processor at with the stock cooler. I did it for 5 minutes, and then I ran Cinebench, turned the computer off, and put it back to stock because I didn't want to go too crazy. But I was able to get, with 4.2 and 3600, I was able to get about 1930, I believe. But once I get the water cooler, I'll probably bump it to 4.3 gigahertz and see what I can do as far as the memory timings, etc. So that stuff will be coming shortly. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe for my future videos, and have a great day.